We're back, everybody. Game fives abound. The NBA, it's getting down to the nitty gritty. We'll be right back. Men of Order, I got next, coming right back at you. Welcome back, everybody, to I Got Next. We are back finally. We got the gang back together. Shout out to Wasted Talent. He's doing his own thing, but he'll be back with us before too long. And we got a lot of games that are really pivotal in these series coming up, man. It's Game 5 time. We got Game 5 between Philadelphia and the Heat right now going on as we speak, and the Heat are giving the Sixers the business. And then later on this evening, we have the Suns and the Mavs. And then tomorrow, you got the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies, and also the Celtics and the Bucks play in. So, what do you think? How have you liked how the despite the Nets getting swept out of the first round, how have you liked what you've seen from this playoffs and this season?
Yeah, man. I think the last time we recorded one of these things, the Nets were down 0-1 or 0-2. Can't really remember. Was not expecting that. Not expecting them to get swept. So that definitely hurt. But they had a crazy season, with everything going on. So it was kind of, the bias side in me, the hopeful side was hoping that they could make a little run at the end where they got hot. But at the end of the day, the Celtics are really, really good. As you can see, they won the game last night against the Bucks. They played awesome. In the fourth quarter. Prior to that, they didn't play awesome. It was kind of an ugly game, but
they got back that game that they had stolen from them in at home. They regained home court advantage, and that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. It just shows that a lot of these games, I think the league is in a really, really good place because of the competitiveness. It feels like really any one of these teams could win it. Like if you told me Dallas was going to be the NBA champions this year, I wouldn't be surprised, but if you told me the Boston Celtics or the Bucks were going to be champions, I wouldn't be surprised either. So I just like where the league is at as far as the talent is pretty widespread. I think the ratings are up, which is awesome. It's good for the sport. And a lot of these teams are playing, team basketball, which is really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
It's kind of not that it's getting away from the stardom. Obviously, each team has its stars, but you're seeing, a young team like the Grizzlies, when they lose their star player like Ja Morant, you're seeing all these other guys step up and play,
they almost pulled it off last night.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for, a couple stupid shots at the end of the game, like they should have pulled it out. And a lot of people don't realize, for people who are just tuning into the playoffs, who didn't really pay attention to regular season, the Grizzlies were actually, I think they were 20-5 or 21-5 without Ja Morant this season, because he was hurt for, that same knee was hurt for a large part of the season. So they played really, really well during the regular season without him. So I wasn't surprised that they played well last night. They're a tough young group, very energetic, always play hard. And when you have those components, you're going to be able to compete. But the Warriors are the Warriors. So they're going to – and it's crazy, right? Because they won that game. They barely squeaked it out. And Klay Thompson and Steph Curry had an awful start shooting to that game. But
how many times have we talked about that, though? They're like, that's just – you just keep throwing them up there. You just keep playing. It's such a long game, and those guys are born shooters. So
Washington, the Nets series was brutal. Yeah, man, that series. Listen, man, I'm a Nets fan. Felt like a slap in the face. But just from looking at it at a objective perspective, like the Celtics are ridiculous as far as defensively goes. The defense they're playing reminds me of early 2000s, late 90s defense where they're just being physical. You can even see they're being physical with Giannis. Now, Giannis and Kevin Durant are two completely different builds. Giannis is literally the Greek freak. He's a freak of nature, something we've never seen before. He's built like LeBron, except he's like 4 or 5 inches taller than him.
Right.
When a guy could throw the ball from half court, take one dribble, and then dunk over somebody, it's kind of tough to guard, right? So the Celtics are having a little bit more trouble with Giannis. But the thing is, in that series with the Bucks, they're really just Giannis has to do it all in that team, so he's like exhausted by the fourth quarter comes around. So,
Right.
and a lot of the times later in the game when you get tired, Giannis isn't a strong shooter, so he's going to attack the rim a lot more. And doing so, as you saw yesterday, Marcus Smart drew 2 offensive fouls on him. That changes the game. That changes the way he can attack, his ability to be aggressive. So that had a big impact on the game as well. But I think whoever comes out of that series is probably going to be NBA champions.
You said that about the Nets Celtics series. So,
the Celtics
sounds like you think the Celtics are coming out of this one.
I do. Didn't I say that?
Yeah,
I think the Celtics are going to,
and not for nothing, but that was a terrible call in Game 3, where Marcus. And I know there are other things that go into it and everything, but he's clearly shooting when he gets fouled at the end of the game. He's clearly shooting the ball. And they call it a foul on the floor, and they still scored. They still should have sent that game to overtime, but Al Horford had his hand on the ball for like a split second too long, and it didn't count.
So you're exactly right. He 100% was shooting. The only reason the refs called it on the floor is because a lot of the times in the regular season,
the
guys will flop, or they like the guys on the other team will tell the ref like, "Hey, I'm going to foul him on the floor. Call it on the floor. Like I'm going to foul him as soon as he comes off." But in that case, like he wasn't doing anything other than shooting the ball in this situation. They were down 3. He was coming off a handoff with 4 seconds left.
Yep. And even jumping in the act of shooting.
Even if he pump faked, he's still in the shooting motion. So they still have to grant him the shots.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. I thought that was a horrendous call. I listened to Bill Simmons' podcast, and he was like, because he's a Boston,
he's a huge Celtics fan guy,
and he was having this hissy fit about it. But in that case, I thought he was 100% right because that was a terrible call. But look at Boston could really be up 3-1 right now, but that just shows how close these games are, how some of these calls are. That's why I think the league is in a really, really good place. I mean, think about it. The same thing happened with the Nets in Game 1.
I was going to say, like we were very close to the Nets stealing a game in Boston, and then going back to Brooklyn and be like, okay, here we go. Now we get a chance to actually like extend this series, because I think when they lost that game because they had it won, I think it emptied them for at least like that first half of Game 2, and it just wasn't the same. And it could have been a totally different series. I'm not saying that they would have won that series, but we could have been looking at a completely different layout, because that was huge, that buzzer beater.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, when you steal, and that was the first game of the series.
Yeah.
So the goal as an away team is to steal one on the road, right? Because then home court is in your favor. So especially if they were to go in there in Game 1 and take that away, that gives Boston a completely different mindset going through the rest of the series.
Exactly.
The worst possible thing could have happened because they won on a buzzer beater and they had all this adrenaline pumping, and it ripped the hearts out of the Nets because they were like, oh, this is the game we could steal. And they didn't. They ended up giving it away. And then they gave away the second game as well. They had a huge lead and they gave it away. So at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due. Boston deserved to win that series, But I'm very shocked at the game that's going on. Actually, before we get to the game that's going on now, just to circle back to your point about Marcus Smart, that was the best missed free throw I've ever seen.
That was incredible. He skimmed it right off the rim
caught it perfectly with nobody giving him a problem.
No lane violation.
The reason he missed that second attempt is because he was so excited that he actually got the ball, so he rushed it. But even so, they kept tapping it. I'm like, that's the most frustrating thing when you see these 7-footers just like tapping it. I'm like, bro, how do you not just tap it in the basket? Like your hand is right there, bro. Right. Just have a little bit better touch.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. That was really well played, and to not violate too, like to not cross and step into the lane early or anything like that, and to not get blocked out. Like who's not boxing out the shooter?
So I don't
think let the shooter get that rebound.
You're 100% right, but I don't think they were expecting him to shoot it that fast. I thought he was going to try to I think the other team was anticipating that he was going to try to miss it to Horford or miss it to somebody else. And as soon as he got the ball from the ref, he just Yeah, as soon as he got the ball from the ref, he just launched it, and it was the perfect, like the most perfect miss ever. Went right back to him.
Man, that was some old 21 shit right there. Like that was that was legit. It's like I know I've got 18. I'm not making this free, or not. I got 19. I'm not making this free throw. I'm gonna ricochet this shit off of here and get a layup. But
Todd Raider, all love and respect. Appreciate that, my man. Did you tune into any of these NBA games? Let us know. Let us know in the chat.
Yeah. So let's talk about this game that's going on right now, because it seems as though, because this, as Joel Embiid goes, so go the Sixers. I know James Harden had a great game 3 and really played well, and they won that one. But it seems like this MVP thing is maybe getting to him, and he's letting that, and then it's sort of feeding off into the rest of the team, because they were down 18. They just went to a commercial, so I don't know what the score is right now, but they were down 18. They're getting blown out by the Heat. And I don't know. This is going to be tough, because I know they get game 6 at home, and then game 7, anything can happen. But I really feel like this was their chance. You win this game, you win game 5 in Miami, and then you go home and you close it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I just think that eye is really, really bothering him. And that's not his only injury. You know, he had the thumb injury in the prior series. And people, obviously forgot about that, because the eye injury is the more significant injury. But he's going to have surgery on that thumb in the offseason. So he's dealing with a multitude of injuries right now. I don't think the MVP, if anything, that I feel like that should give him a spark and make him angry.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing it.
I don't. From what I've seen,
you may be right. Maybe the injuries are weighing on him.
From he's not a soft type of guy. Like they used to call him Joel Embiid. Like, he's funny, he's humorous, he plays hard, he's not scared of anybody. So for him to not win the MVP and like be a baby about it, I don't think that's the case. I honestly just think he's probably fatigued. He's dealing with his eye injury, and I don't know if you saw it, but in the second quarter, he re-injured it a little bit, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain. Basically, Dwayne Dedman, he hit the ball, and the ball hit him in the face, like directly. Couldn't have been a worse place to hit him.
Right,
hit him exactly in the orbital. He collapsed right to the floor, and he looked like he was in a crazy amount of pain. So I don't think it's the MVP thing. I know people are saying that on Twitter and TV and stuff. I think it's probably fatigue, the injuries, and the mental battle of the injuries as well.
Right.
And it doesn't look like anybody else. The only one, from what I've seen in the first half, is Maxey really stepping up right now. Harden had an amazing game the other day, but I don't think he's playing the best right now. I'm going to check his stats real quick, but they're going to have to rely heavy on Harden and see if he could step up.
Yeah, it's
let's go Heat.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have a sort of a similar situation with Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. They play tomorrow night, and they're down 3-1 now. And even with the 2 seed in the West and home court advantage coming into this series, you're playing one of the best franchises, one of the best dynasties in the NBA going right now, and possibly in the last few decades. But
we got a lot of Heat fans in here.
Yeah, I know, right? But you have an injury with Ja Morant, where, like you said, it's a knee that he's had some issues with before, but that's kind of a freak play. Like, I don't know if Jordan Poole was reaching. Oh, we got wasted talent coming in. Is he trying to pull up and pop into the stream? Wasted talent. How are you? Oh, now he's gone.
Let him do it himself. I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was. Yeah, so I didn't know if he was on.
Yeah,
on the phone.
The Jordan Poole Ja Morant incident, right? It looked really bad in slow motion, because he kind of grabbed his hip, tweaked him, grabbed his knee a little bit, kind of like. But I don't think there was any malintent behind it. I think he was just being aggressive. And, sometimes when you're tired and you're playing aggressive defense, you're going to do stupid shit. Like, think about all the times you played basketball and you're tired. I've grabbed a million jerseys. You know what I'm saying? I've pushed people because I'm exhausted. But let's see.
Yeah, he says
Jordan Poole is the first thing. Yeah, it's not like he has a history of being a dirty player or anything like that. Like, it just looked like a stupid play, and unfortunately, Ja got hurt. And it's that knee, it's that same knee that's been bothering him during the regular season, so it was probably weak. So that doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think it was a dirty play. It just sucks because when you have the best player on the other team out, especially when Steve Kerr was throwing shade at Dylan Brooks, saying that he's a dirty player and all that.
Was
and then one year
kind
guys
of a wild
goes and do that,
turnaround, huh?
and you don't have much to say about it. It's kind of like, it's like, bro, why don't you keep that same energy, But
and I don't know that was a dirty play by Brooks. Like it is unfortunate the way that it happened, but like 9 times, not 9 times out of 10, hell, 99 times out of 100, that same type of a guys go into the rack and somebody comes and they're trying to make a play on the ball, and you come across, you catch the back of the guy's head as he's going by. 99 times out of 100, if not more, he's not landing in that crooked way where he happens to jam his elbow and break, damn near dislocate his elbow.
I agree with you. I don't think Dylan Brooks' foul was even that hard. I think or that bad. I think it was just an awkward landing. I think if he lands it a little bit of a different way, it's just a flagrant one. But I think the fact that it sent him out the game because the way he landed. Ja was diagnosed with a bone bruise, probably the bang from knee from contestant Klay Thompson. Yeah, so Ja had he's a contusion, dumb it down, a bone bruise, which is a shitty injury because it's like really stupid. Basically, it's exactly what it said. Your bone is bruised and it hurts to walk.
Yeah,
like you don't have full mobility or anything like that. So it's kind of just like a Charlie horse or a dead leg on steroids. Really annoying injury to deal with. And it's one of those things that no matter how much you ice it or do whatever, it's not going to help. You can basically just try to take ice baths. They do this.
Reduce the inflammation a little bit.
Yeah, they do this thing called flossing where you basically take an elastic band and you wrap it around the area and you kind of, contract and extend your knee, and it's basically all that does is to prevent the blood flow and then bring it back, basically to just try to speed up that healing time. And they'll probably do some cupping as well. So that it's just like a really annoying injury, and the only thing you could do is give it time. I had an injury like that on my foot, and people were like, "Oh, did you sprain your ankle or did you break something?" I'm like, and it sounds stupid. It's like, no, I have a bone bruise, but you literally can't put any weight on it. It's just a silly injury.
Yeah, well, back to that the Dylan Brooks, Gary Payton thing. If you watch that play, if Gary Payton's not looking at the ball to see if it goes in, he can catch himself better. When you're not looking, you don't know where the floor is. And so I think that's part of where, like, his elbow was overextended when he landed. We got wasted talent up. Let's bring him in.
What's going on, fellas?
Wasted talent. I was thinking about you today when all these people are talking about how physical these playoffs are and everything like that. You and I go back. We're the old heads in this new generation of kids out here talking about how physical this NBA is. This isn't even compared to Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas and Michael
Not
Jordan
even a little bit.
Shit in the 80s.
Not even a little bit, man. Not even. I mean, dude, these guys are getting hurt because this is the first time they're actually getting touched in their whole career. Like seriously, and you can see the way that Ja Morant goes to the basket and Gary Payton Jr. goes to the basket, that they go to the basket like they're not they go with this reckless abandon because they don't know how to actually land. They're not even protecting themselves. And that's and a lot of that, I think that's a lot of why we're seeing the injuries that we're seeing. Like when Allen Iverson used to go to the basket with reckless abandon, he used to protect the ball and he used to put his body in a certain position because he knew the contact was coming. These guys go up like they're going to do ballet or some shit. It's unbelievable, man. And then now you have a playoff series that's marred because the probably the most exciting player in the NBA is out of it because he couldn't protect himself. It's sad, man. It's really, really sad. I mean, the NBA right now is in real bad shape. A lot of people say it's in good shape. I think it's in really bad shape right now because they need to decide how they're going to officiate these games and what style of play they're going to allow them to get away with. You can't have it to where you're letting these guys run up and down the court all season, and then when the playoffs start, then you try to turn the clock back. The physicality needs to be introduced back into the game the entire season.
Yeah.
Because then you'll see who's who and what's what. You got guys like Luka Doncic, who's out there, he's out of shape. You got Ja Morant, whose body isn't developed enough to play the way that he plays, and now he's getting knocked out of the playoffs. And what you're seeing is those wily old vets, the Golden State Warriors, the Chris Pauls of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The people in the Celtics, like even with the Celtics, even though Tatum
Horford,
and Brown are younger, Al Horford's 85 years old. And guess what? When the rubber meets the road and you need a basket, you need somebody to defend Giannis, he's there ready to answer the bell because he's battle tested. Yep. So I just believe that the NBA is hitching their wagon to unproven commodities in a sense.
I am the Bay said at every level in basketball, everyone knows you don't hit a guy in the head going up for a dunk, period. What do you got to say to that, Wasted?
Well, listen, man, everybody knows it, but does it happen? Yeah, it happens. At even in a park, you get hit in the head when somebody goes up for a dunk. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. I mean, I could show you tons of videos of Michael Jordan going to the basket with somebody grabbing his face and him still slamming it down in their fucking throat. It's just that this era of basketball, I mean, they need to decide how they're going to officiate this stuff. If they're going to take the physicality out of the game, take it out. If they're going to allow the guys to play like when we were coming up, let them play. But the problem is this. You can't just paradigm shift in the middle of a playoff, and now you got guys that are getting hurt.
Well, and even beyond that, it's also like they'll do shit in the middle of a game where they'll have a guy get mauled on the way to the basket, not call anything, and then they'll call a hand check at half court. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, that had no impact on the outcome of the play. It's like calling holding on the outside on the opposite end of a sweep play, you know, on the wide out on the right side when you're running to the left versus you know, not calling a pass interference when a guy gets tackled in the end zone. It's like it's you got to figure out how you're going to actually call this shit correctly, and they're terrible at that.
I think the intention of these rules are to protect the assets of the league, right? Which is obviously the players. They don't want their best players getting hurt. Mm-hmm. As you can see, Gary Payton, one of the best defenders on the Warriors, is out. Ja Morant, the best player on the Grizzlies, is out. So the reason they put in these flagrant fouls and they're calling them so strictly is to protect their product. But with that being said, a lot of these referees and coaches have taken what a flagrant really is supposed to be out of context, right? And along with that, these stupid technical fouls after a dunk and a stare down, especially in the playoffs, bro, it's the playoffs. You're going to give Giannis a tech because he banged it on somebody and stared at Al Horford? Like, give me a break, bro. That's ridiculous. And then you're going to give Al Horford. All right, the Al Horford tech, I guess you could say, yeah, it's a tech because he hit him in the face. But he did not intend to hit him in the face. He dunked and followed through, and Giannis's face was there. That's not a technical foul. Right. Like, Giannis went up to block it. Al Horford's followed through, hit him in the face. He got hit in the face. Sometimes in basketball, you get hit in the face.
Right.
That's like you said, Wasted. Basketball is a contact sport, and people do not realize that. You're setting screens, you're banging into each other. Pause. It is what it is. It's a contact sport, and things like that happen.
Guys, you know the funny thing. Like, I really believe this. I believe that the NBA is at an impasse now. They really have to get control of their product. You know, a lot of people are saying that these playoffs are great and it's parity and everything, but I'm viewing it from a different prism. To me, this shit is kind of unwatchable. It's unwatchable to me because you don't know if the referees are gonna officiate the competitiveness out of the game. You know what I mean? The referees on all levels in the NFL, the NBA, and MLB, they have way too much to do with the bottom line of what happens in these games, man. And that's a problem for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I can agree with you on that. I do think that the game is in a good place as far as the balance of competition. I feel like any one of these teams can win it. But like you said, the officials have way too much of an impact on these games. That's the thing that pisses me off about baseball. It's like, okay, why is the strike zone different in every single game? It's like, oh, this umpire calls high strikes. This umpire calls low strikes. It makes no sense. Why is the strike zone different in every single game? And this ump can potentially get you 10 strikeouts a game. But if you have Chad as an ump who calls a high strike, he can get you 10 walks a game. That's what pisses me off. Now, the league definitely has to decide what is a charge and what's a block. They have to make that rule more clear, because the other 2 games ago, Giannis was able to go to the basket. He was running guys over, and they were calling everything a blocking foul. But then yesterday in the game, he was running guys over, and it was a charge. So it's like, why did it differ from game to game? Because the officiating was
I'll
different,
tell you why.
and because
That's
the
why I
Celtics
went and got my
complained?
tinfoil kufi, because it's all meant, and there's a reason why they're not going to make it more clear and easier to decide what's what. Even their little semicircle in the lane to call charges and you know, the little whatever that thing is, whatever they call it, the player control circle or whatever the hell. This is all a mechanism to manipulate the outcomes of games. This is my tinfoil kufi speaking, okay? So I think that the reason why you'll have calls go one way one game, one way another game. Yeah, you've got your typical old school, it's always happened, where the home team is going to get calls because the refs don't want to hear the shit from the fans or whatever it is. There's an emotional element to it. But I really think that there's an opportunity if you want to like play fancy with that gray area. It's really easy to do it because that gray area keeps getting harder and harder to decipher, and maybe even widening a little bit with the way that they have. And now that they have more levers to pull, flagrant 1, flagrant 2, block charge, all these different, like the technical that you were talking about, where it's like these silly things where somebody will, you know, somebody can go down the court doing this and it's nothing, but then you look at somebody after a dunk and it's a technical, you know, like it's nonsense. But I think that it's like, hey, you have all these levers. If you need to, you have them at your disposal to influence the outcomes of games. That's it. I will take my tinfoil kufi off now.
Yeah, I mean, I totally look. I don't know if it's so much that it's rigged, but what I do know is that there's a certain level of credibility that these leagues are losing, because we know that these leagues are like a television show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to make sure that these series go a certain way, I believe. You know what I mean? And you can see that in plain as day. Like, if you look at the way the Boston and the Milwaukee series is going, that series is a yo-yo, man. And that's going to be the marquee series in the NBA right now, because if you look at the Warriors series, that series is over. You know, Ja Morant's gone. Even though they won more games without Morant than they did with him, when you talk about a playoff atmosphere, the other night, no one on that team could get a bucket besides Ja. So that we got that to deal with. And I wanted to read a comment really quickly, man. My man, I am the Bay, because I'm not controlling the boards, but he goes, sorry, no one wants to admit Ja missed 25 games with a bone bruise, but Jordan Poole caused it. I call BS. And that's another thing. Yeah, Ja Morant has been out with that same injury all year, man. You know what I mean? And it's getting to the point where, like, you know, things happen, man. That's to be expected. Like today with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid got hit in his face. He was crying. You know, I'm not a brace. He got player. You know, people in basketball forget the physical game. Get that. People are gonna put that wood on you. They're gonna put that lumber on you. Pause. Right.
Pause.
So when they do that, man, yo, yeah, anything can happen, bro. Anything can happen, man. I want to give a shout out to Yoji Mitsu. I am the Bay. I mean, everybody I sent him, man. My guys is in a place to be, man.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, man. Shout out to everybody in here. If you're not already, like, subscribe, comment. All that stuff helps us. All that stuff helps the algorithm, as I'm sure you heard in every single YouTube video you watched, but it does. So if you like the content, we definitely appreciate your support, everything like that. So I don't know if you've been tuned into the Maverick series at all with the Suns, but you know, I'm looking forward to that. I've always liked Jason Kidd, obviously, because I'm a Nets fan. I think they could steal this. Tonight's a big game for them. Tonight is a big game for them. Mm-hmm. They have to steal tonight.
Yeah.
My only thing is they shot a crazy amount of threes the other day, and they were on fire. I don't know if they're capable of doing that again. Mm-hmm. But if they can, they can win tonight's game. As long as Luka is willing to facilitate the ball when the double teams come and everything like that, they have an opportunity to win this game. And they're a great defensive team. So, yep. But Chris Paul, usually when he has a shitty game, he usually bounces back.
I see Dallas losing this game, man. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, the NBA and the refs, you can kind of see that they're tilting it. They're trying to make this Luka has Luka will them on, and it's you're going to be team is balanced. Like not
Yeah, wasted. Your mic is messing up a little bit.
You gotta. We got to. Oh, all right, try again because we didn't hear anything you said. Yeah, we didn't hear anything you said because it was you were in the matrix.
No, I'm sorry, guys. I got my earpod. I'm sorry. I'm out. I wasn't at home in the Wasted Talent podcast studios. but no, but I don't see any way Dallas wins this game, man, because the other night so many things had to happen for them to even make that game what it was. You know what I mean? And then now if you look at it, man, you look at the presence in the middle that the Suns have. They have the edge and experience. And I really don't think that they're going to get the kind of calls they got the other night. And for them to hit as many threes they hit is kind of an anomaly, man. I don't see it happening, bro. I see the Suns going, Chris Paul slowing the game down, them throwing it in, and them just kind of dominating from the middle. You got JaVale McGee coming off the bench and DeAndre Ayton, man. I don't see it. I see the Suns kind of starting to round out and close the series out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And if they do take this one, Dallas does still get to go back home for Game 6 and possibly extend it to Game 7. But I would be very, very surprised if Dallas goes home with a 3-2 lead in this series. I just think the Suns just have too much. They have so many weapons and so many people. The biggest thing is too for me, as good as Chris Paul and Devin Booker can be, and then Ayton does his thing. It's their other guys. It's the fact that when those guys aren't in the lineup, those other guys don't give up like a 30-14 quarter. They actually still hold their own and actually maybe even extend a lead when they're in the game. So I agree with you, Wasted.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Suns probably should win this game. I just think the Mavs have been looking really, really good. I think you got to take into consideration that they're a good defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little biased because I like Jason Kidd. Nah, but like you guys said, it's going to be hard for them to hit all those threes again. I think Monty Williams is a dope coach. I think he's going to be able to make those adjustments. I think if the Suns really want to win this game, I think they just let Luka do whatever he wants, get fatigued, and then just take advantage when he's out of the game. Because the games that they lost, Luka was doing a lot of facilitating, and a lot of the other guys were having a major, major impact on the game. So I think they should just let Luka get 50 and let the Suns get the W.
Yeah, I mean, Luka Mania runs wild and they lose. He just doesn't trust his teammates. Mm-hmm. And then guys get out of rhythm and they kind of start Luka watching. And you're going to see that happen this game, man. A lot of what's been going on in this series is just the officiating, I think. You know what I mean? Look, I like Luka Doncic, man, but the problem with Luka is he needs to learn how to affect the game on the other side of the ball. He plays almost no defense.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So if you have that happening, he's never going to be able to get out of probably, beyond the second round of the playoffs if he doesn't play some defense. Sometimes you got to win games on the other side of the ball. I don't see him doing that. I think the Suns are the most balanced team probably in the whole West, man, to be quite honest with you, because the thing that Golden State doesn't have is that presence in the middle.
Yeah.
They're bringing JaVale McGee off the bench, man. And, Shaq used to make a lot of fun of JaVale McGee, but JaVale McGee has rounded into one hell of a player, man, on both ends of the ball, man.
He's certainly a disruptor at the very least, and you can always get him for 2 or 3, maybe 4 alley-oops, those little runners in the lane where he just catches it and throws it down.
I became a fan of JaVale McGee when he did the dunk where he dunked on 2 separate hoops in the dunk contest. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Yeah, but you're 100% right, Wasted. He's always been a solid player. Mm-hmm. Early in his career, he was just new to the game and he would try to do too much sometimes. Yeah. But if you actually watch basketball, he would always have an impact on the game. There's a reason why he's been in the league this long. You can't be in the league this long if you suck.
He's got a 7'6" wingspan or something like that. There's a lot of guys like that, but he's really athletic too, and he's got some stuff that he brings. Like I said, he's a disruptor. He's a rim protector, and he does more than just that. Like he's available for, like I said, those little backdoor alley-oops and stuff where you can't just come over and help every time somebody's going to the goal.
Bro, there's been times where he's got the ball and gone coast to coast with the dunk. Like, he's done Giannis-like stuff before. He's just JaVale McGee. Yeah. So he can't do it as consistently.
Well, you know what the problem is, man? I think Shaquille O'Neal kind of tried to lampoon him because Shaquille O'Neal has this thing. It's almost like an insecurity, right? Like, Shaquille O'Neal might be one of the most outgoing big men of all time. Most of the big men in the NBA are kind of quiet, meek kind of guys that don't want to stand out. Shaq was always comfortable in his own skin, but I think other players make Shaq feel like he has to belittle them or kind of downplay what they're doing, especially now that he's not in the game and he can't actually intimidate them. And he tried to make a joke out of JaVale McGee. And I think the best thing that ever happened to JaVale McGee was, one, winning a ring, and two, JaVale McGee standing up to Shaq. You know what I mean? And tell him, like I remember when they were asking him about, him, what he thought about Shaq and Shaq and the fool. And he called the Shaq and the coon. And I thought that was one of the funniest things I ever heard. You know what I mean? And listen, Shaq is from my hometown. I fucks with Shaq, man. But I think Shaq, kind of made too much of JaVale McGee being a bad player. He's always been a good player, right? And you're going to see what kind of player he is in this series, man, because that's going to be the reason why Dallas loses. The rim protection and DeAndre Ayton on the low block, being able to get a bucket anytime he needs to. Like, guys, look, let me say this because my mic went out. Hey, anybody that comes from my channel, Raider Nation Unlimited, please do me a favor. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button to my guys at Men of Order. I'm a part of Men of Order. We all started this a long time ago. I'm going to start tapping in over here more. We're going to do these shows more consistently. But right now, I'm out. I'm not at home. You know what I mean? So, my guys are holding it down, man, like they always do. But do me a favor, please, like, subscribe. We got to get this thing moving over here. Men of Order is more than just a sports channel. It's a movement,
Word.
So I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Hey, Thank you, Yoji, Mitsu, Faith Thomas, everybody that came over, man. Yo, Faith Thomas, I appreciate you, my dog. Appreciate you. I know you watching hockey. I know that's okay. Yo, it's all right, yo.
I got no playoff hockey is awesome. I was never a hockey fan growing up. All my buddies were, so they eventually got me to. They're all Ranger fans, so they eventually got me to watch Ranger games a few years ago. And playoff hockey is nuts. So I don't blame you if you're watching playoff hockey. Just to add to that Shaquille O'Neal point that Wasted made, it's funny because you always hear about like former players like reaching out to MJ, reaching out to Kobe to improve their game and everything like that, reaching out to the vets. You rarely hear anybody reach out or hear stories of people reaching out to Shaq for advice. So I thought that's an interesting take as well. And I'm sure he's probably have helped some people, but it doesn't seem like a commonality, where you hear some of the greats who have given advice to the younger stars. So that's an interesting point as well. But yeah, that does it for me. You got anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just it's going to be, as we have seen throughout the history of the NBA, the winner of Game 5 in one of these series has a really good chance of winning. When you go up 3-1 in a series, you have a 95% chance of winning. But back to the Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies, if you lose Game 5, that chance goes down to 85%. So as crazy as it may sound, the Warriors need to win that game. First of all, because you win that game, you move on, but also because that's you start playing with fire at that point. And so that's the little bit of hope that the Grizzlies, I think, may have. But the other thing is, in those 2-2 series, it is, let's see where I lost it here. I was wasted up. Teams that win Game 5 of a 2-2 best of 7 series have an 82% winning percentage all time.
Damn,
that's pretty huge. So if you're in a 2-2 series, that game it effectively becomes a 3-game series, and Game 1 is critical. So it's you got to get it done.
Listen, man, whether you like the NBA right now or not, I think it's in a good place. I've watched a lot of basketball in my life. So I don't really care about your opinion. That includes you, Wasted. No, it's like, no,
I knew he was calling you out. Oh shit!
I like where the game is at. There he is. Yeah, I said it, Wasted. Your opinion is terrible. The game is in an awesome place.
I kind of agree. I think I do think it's in a better place than he's giving.
I don't think it's in a better place. I think it's in one of those.
No, like, I'm saying a better place than he's giving it credit
for. Well, no, see,
I think it's in a different place than it has been. But I think it's just another era of basketball. Every 10 years, it seems like the game changes. You got new stars coming in, new different styles of play. And that's all it is. I think it's good right now. I think the talent is spread out. There's not too many dominant teams. The dominant teams that were supposed to win this year, the Lakers didn't make the playoffs, and the Nets got swept in the first round. And they traded their best player, or one of their best players, midway through the year. So,
see, guys, look, when I say that the game is not in a good place, the reason why the game isn't in a good place, because of the product that the league and the officials are allowing to the game is in a good place from a talent perspective. And from, like, the younger players, yeah, it's in a good place. There's a lot of young talent in them. A lot of quality of the product that they're putting out on the floor is in a bad place. I think the leadership at the top of the NBA is doing too much. They're making an NBA and they're turning it into a fucking video game. And what they're doing is they're marketing the game towards people who gamble and kids who play video games and don't play sports. And that's the problem. You have to be consistent. Like when we talk about, like, the All-Star game and all of these things, and like league MVP and all of these awards, the way that they go about it is very, very haphazard, man. Like, you kind of knew what was going to garner a foul. You kind of knew what playoff intensity was, what regular season intensity was. You knew what superstars were going to get what calls, and you kind of can have some consistency with the way you watch the game and the way you can, kind of keep up with what was going on. Now it's too haphazard, man. It is way too haphazard. And I just think the way that the league is running the actual product on the court is the problem. It's not the talent. It's more talent in the NBA than there's ever been. But the problem is that they're trying to, on the fly, establish what kind of league that they want. Because the metric that they're looking at is how many people are watching it, how many butts are in the seat, like how many jerseys are being sold. And it's not about the integrity of the game itself. And that's the problem with the NBA. The one thing that David Stern was good at was he could recognize and circle who. Because, he wasn't the commissioner when Bird and Magic came in the league. He became the commissioner, right? But when he saw Michael Jordan, he said, listen, we're going to put our eggs in a Michael Jordan basket. And that was fine. But the one thing that was consistent about David Stern was that you knew the direction he was trying to go. When he took the physicality out of basketball, like the barbaric play out of the NBA, you saw what he was doing. He was building the league around Michael Jordan. But the integrity of the game was always there. You never had to question the integrity of the game. Now you have to question why some of these calls are being made. Like the other night with that thing that you were talking about with Giannis. Somebody giving a fucking look. Come on, you're going to put a tech like that? That's the kind of stuff that looks like they're trying to influence gambling. It doesn't look like it's anything that helps the game at all. And that's my problem with the game. I think Adam Silver needs to grow a pair. And he needs to really worry about the quality on the court.
Hey, Wasted, you gotta fix your mic or something. You're kind of fading in and out. But I want to ask you this on that note. So, because I remember, I'm sure everybody remembers. I think it was the 07 playoffs with the Suns and the Spurs, where Steve Nash got smashed into the scorer's table by Big Shot Bob.
Yeah, that was one of the most bullshit rules ever. They suspended
terrible. They suspended
Stoudemire
and Amari Stoudemire
for stepping off,
standing up and walking towards the action.
That rule was put into place because of the Malice and Palace incident, right? They were trying to keep all the players on the bench, and they didn't want any more type of fight and stuff like that. That was ridiculous. That had a huge influence on the series. That did. Arguably could have robbed the Suns of an NBA championship because they were very good that year.
Yeah, Kurt Thomas had to guard Tim Duncan in like Game 5 or whatever
Game
6 or whatever.
Buckets Island.
Yeah, and you know what though?
Timmy D.
But not for nothing. You knew how David Stern got down. He put his eggs in the Spurs basket.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. He definitely did.
He put his eggs in the Spurs basket. He was trying to milk another dynasty. He was trying to milk another dynasty. He was trying to make the league and take it to another level. And I mean, how could you take it to another level post Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan is an anomaly. Like that's like having Babe Ruth in baseball at the time he was in baseball. It just doesn't happen. It comes along once every 30 or 40 years, maybe. So, I understood where David Stern was coming from with that. But when you talk about the punishment, the way the officials officiated the game, the style of the game, you kind of knew what was a foul, what wasn't a foul, what was going to get called. You knew in the last 2 minutes of the game, you weren't going to get bullshit fouls. You just knew that. It was a certain consistency, just like when you watch the NFL. The NFL at this point, you understand what you're watching because guess what? The officials aren't great, but you know that certain things will get called. You know how they're going to go about, unless you're talking about the Raiders. Now, when we talk about the Raiders, that's a different playbook. But if you watch another game, because the league hates the Raiders, we know that. No, bro. And we're not going to get into the Raiders right now. You know what I mean? It always goes back to my Raiders. But we know that the league has a come on, let's just be for real. You know that I've always said that on this show. The league has a vendetta against the Raiders. You can see it. It's documented. Anybody with two sets of eyes can see it, right? But in the National Football League, you pretty much
have two sets of eyes.
Yo, listen, all you got to do is have one eye to see that shit. But what I'm saying is that, and look, and I'm gonna say this is the last thing, because I'm out and I'm looking like a crazy person in front of, in front of a store talking. But the thing is this, man. The NBA needs to decide what kind of league it wants to be. They need to decide who their superstars are and officiate from that standpoint. And that's all I got to say, man. I just feel like a lot of the shit that's going on, it's just too much. They're changing the game too much. It's like every week they're kind of doing things on the fly, like, oh, this works, we're gonna try that this week. They're trying too many different things, man, and they really, really need to laser focus on making the quality and the integrity of the game as solid as it needs to be, so that people can catch on. That's just my personal opinion, man. Like the thing, like we were talking about the All-Star game and All-Star weekend. That shit is corny, man.
Yeah.
All of this picking the teams and all like, dude, East versus West, like you're making this shit into fantasy football. This is a fucking professional sports league. I mean, Christ Almighty, man.
Yeah, well, the worst was, I don't remember who it was, but somebody went to the goal for their wide open layup with like 3 seconds left in the quarter, and it was 1-1 quarters, because they do this weird thing where like it's whoever wins the quarters or whatever, and then the last quarter they set a score or some nonsense. Anyway, it's going. They can win the game if he just makes this layup, and instead he like throws an alley-oop backwards to somebody else into traffic. It gets knocked away. The quarter ends in a tie. And sure enough, it comes down to they got to play the third quarter. Well, I will say this. Shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers. They were about to lose by 40, but they cut it to 33. Smoked. So, well, now it's back up to 35. So, anyway, shout out to the Sixers for doing everything they can to make it extremely difficult on themselves. They're gonna go back to Philly for Game 6. And then we'll see what happens if they can force a Game 7, and then anything goes.
Yeah, the league wants Game 7. There'll be a Game 7. I think there's an opportunity for there to be 4 or 5 Game 7s, including hockey on Sunday. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of Game 7s. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas, Phoenix went 7. Wouldn't be surprised if Bucks, Celtics went 7. That just means more revenue for the NBA. Yeah. So like we said, all these officiating consistencies are going to be interesting to watch, but we're going to wrap up now. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like we said, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps.
Give it a share too. Share if you got friends who are into the sports stuff. And as you've seen, we tackle things in a different way. We're not just going to go through, breaking down the score. We're actually we're going to say the stuff that maybe some of these other shows aren't willing to say, because they're not willing to talk about the man behind the curtain. So we're not afraid, and if you enjoy what you saw here, and some other folks who might, please share as well.
Yeah. With that being said, let's go Mavericks. They're about to tune in.
All right. See y'all next time, everybody. Peace.